Everyone, welcome to the Four Checks cast. We are your Four Checks here to bring you everything going on in universes. And it's been a bit of a slow couple weeks. Now, admittedly, we had like a pretty big couple before that, so it's fine that slowed down a little bit. But there are some cool things we want to talk about. The first thing we are going to talk about is the Sung Jin Woo deck. So, as I'm pulling up some of the cards for us to talk about, I wanted to kind of kick it off to y'all. Did you play Sung Jin Woo at all before this DLC?
I think I played him once at locals when he came out.
I
And that
played
was
Yeah.
it.
against Jesse, who was playing the unmodified structure deck, and was incredibly disappointed when I told him that he doesn't start on level 1.
That's fair.
Dude,
That's fair.
my number one pet peeve is that Sung Jin Woo does not start at level 1 in either of his things. But the cool news is we got what I can only describe as patch notes here. Like,
Kind of, yeah. Patch notes slash DLC.
so we knew for those of you who don't keep up, we had heard about the like alt art characters from the rest of the bunch. I don't know if we ever actually talked about. They made these like
talk about there.
alt art characters that were reskins because they were going to be in lower supply. Fine. But they'd said they were going to have the Shadow Monarch bundle, and they had a Sung Jin Woo that had new text on it. That instead of just starting with the Assassin class, it could also start with the Shadow Monarch. And the weird thing about this was it was the same character. It wasn't Sung Jin Woo 2. It wasn't Sung Jin Woo some subtext. This was just we were doing a buff errata, which I don't know if we've ever really done a buff errata like this in the game.
At least not intentionally, I don't think.
And certainly not to this extreme where we just functionally gave him a whole new set of abilities. So let's go and talk a little bit about first the big part about this, the Shadow Monarch skill tree itself. So he was given a new skill tree. The level up works exactly the same. He starts at level 0. He has to remove XP cards to level up. But instead of before, where he was kind of mixing weapons and a bunch of once per turn toolbox abilities, now he is all in. He is all in on the Shadow Monarch stuff. So let's go and talk a little bit about it. There are 4 abilities here. First, he has Shadow Extraction. This is level 1 ability. Form once per turn. He can play a Shadow Shift attack from his discard pile. Level 2 is Shadow Preservation. This attack gets -2 once per turn. You can give an attack -2 for each shadow card in your stage and card pool. Shadow Exchange is level 3 ability. Sacrifice 1 backup to draw a card. Give +2 or -2 speed. And then finally, Monarch's Domain, level 4 ability. He gives +X damage, where X is number of shadow cards in station card pool +2. Before you saw the shadow cards, which we'll get into a second, and we'll just kind of skim through those. When you saw these abilities, did you think that these were good looking abilities? Because we actually had like 30 minutes where we saw these abilities before the attack cards. What were you guys' thoughts on the ability?
I will be forthright. I saw this and I saw like it said shadow card 6 times, and I said, "All right, I do not know how I cannot evaluate these in a vacuum, so I will turn my brain off and wait until we find out more." But I'm impressed with this. The first and last one stand out to me as pretty spicy. Like these are very powerful, kind of just fundamental. Form, draw, and play an attack from your graveyard. Great ability. Enhance +2 or more damage. Great ability. And the middle 2 are cool.
Yeah. Like I saw these and I was like, I need to see what the shadow cards do, because obviously everything he does revolves around how good or bad those cards are. But overall, the abilities by themselves read very well. Like they sound good.
Yeah. I know when I saw it, I was like, especially level 1 ability, I was like, oh, cool. Like he's a 7-hander that gets to guarantee one of them's an attack. Like that is on paper a very good ability. It makes up for the fact that like he sometimes has to remove an XP from hand or an XP that's in his stage. So he kind of negs a resource to level up. He's getting that by being 1 extra hand size. I thought that was really good. The -2 damage I was really interested in seeing because I'm a DR gamer. I know Tim is not, but I love DR when you as a deck build.
I don't care about once per turn on a character.
That's true. That's true.
That's a little more reasonable than. What I don't like is
Repeatable.
yeah, all of your attacks are going to get -5 damage.
Sure.
Good luck, right?
And then like I his last ability is really interesting because I think one of the issues that Sung Jin Woo 1 or Sung Jin Woo Assassin had was he lacked like a really strong ability to kill someone. Often, like he could get a lot of
Oh,
cards.
I'm sure he killed people at level 6. It just took level 6.
Sure,
Right.
it took level 6, and even then, like his level 6 didn't increase his damage. It just meant he could grab XP cards from his remove from game pile, which is good, and that means you will find better strings. This one, like you're starting off at +3 damage if you're playing all shadows, and you have none in your stage, and you're only going up from there. You reach level 4, you're doing Godzilla level damage plus as long as you play all shadow attacks. That
Even if
seems
you're
really
like,
good.
even if you're mostly not shadow attacks, it is like if you have a target for the form from level 1, like that's Godzilla damage, you know.
Yes.
You have one in the pool
absolutely.
plus 2 more, so
Mm-hmm.
then it's all
But
gravy after that. Yeah.
he was not just his skill tree. Obviously, he'd be kind of whatever if it was just his skill tree. We got on top of it a series of double-sided cards. Now, I'm not going to put all of these on screen, but I wanted to talk about some of the big, or what each of them did real quickly. We got an action. The action actually could be used in either character, either version, Assassin or Shadow Monarch, because all it says is that enhance your turn, level up. You can only play one copy of this ability a turn, and if it's removed from your hand, which you would be doing when you level up with its with the character ability, you can build it in transformed. And transformed, it's an XP card again. After you move it from your stage, gain 2 health. But the really interesting thing we got a series of 4 backups. We got a 3 mid 5 throw that shifts into a -3 damage move, or -3 damage backup. We got a 3 low 4 4 diff that becomes a 3 low 7, but it lets them draw a card if they're empty in their hand. That becomes a pretty powerful backup. +1 speed on your attacks, -1 speed on your rivals' attacks. And then you can add it to your hand at enhanced speed. A 4 high 7 6 diff that if it deals damage, it auto transforms. Otherwise, it's just a shift, which commits to give +3 damage as a backup. And after it's attacked, your rival loses a health. And finally, Shadow Sorcery. One of the ones I actually think was kind of the most interesting to me. A 4 low 4 diff that's a shadow spell shifts +2 speed for each copy of it or its backup side in your stage or RFG. And its backup side lets you remove itself to pick up a spell attack from your discard pile, which could include another copy of itself. With all that being said, and I know that was a lot of information, but I think you all have read the cards. Did you think that these were good enough when you saw them?
I think 2 of them will matter.
Which 2?
Right. The 4 diffs. Right.
Sure.
I don't think anyone outside of Sun Jin Woo is playing the other 2. The throw is interesting, but I think if you're putting a 5 diff throw in your deck, you'd rather take the momentum, unless you're doing like express backup stuff, and even then, like I don't know. But Chivalrous Charge is just plain good. Unless their hand is empty, right? It's a 3 low 7 with no drawback. That again, you'd have to decide not to take momentum if it does hit, but you get a -1 speed on everything in your stage until they kill it, and then they have to go kill your backup, and so on and so forth. So that card's just pure good. Sorcery, I think we'll see some play in some spell themed stuff. People will try it out at least, right?
Absolutely. I think the 6 diff won't see play anywhere besides Sung Jin Woo. Like
maybe not even there.
And maybe not even there. Like that's the one I was like, I'm not sure I'm keeping this card, because 6 diff is just, you need a lot more value of a 6 diff than I think it's providing.
Yeah.
The throw is I
like the 0 high block.
Sure.
Building into a 3 damage button in stage is fine. They're probably not going to attack it. They're probably just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
It's not awful. It's just, I mean, maybe if we want keywords, we end up including it.
I think actually my take on all these cards, they're all excellent. Like these are all, every 201 is worth considering in any slot where you would think about it for any reason. Like if I want to throw, I can think about Bear's Bite. If I want 7 damage attack for 4 difficulty. I can think about Triple Charge.
Right.
Rage Riot is, it is a 6 diff, but it also clears progressive difficulty if it hits. It's got 5 keywords, and several of those are relevant. I mean, Shadow it's narrow to Sung Jin Woo, and as is XP, but Weapon and Fury are both very good keywords. And yeah, like on hit, clear me into a +3 damage button. Like that's a 6 difficulty for 10 damage with a 0 high block. Like that's a good mix up if they're not blocking high.
Yeah, that could be like your 2x high attack. That's the only high in your deck kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, like once upon a time, this reminds me very distantly of Flying Fortress Buster, and I think this. I mean, we've come a long way since then, but this is a lot stronger than Flying Fortress Buster. And yeah, Shadow Monday Wizard Gang, holy moly, dude!
I do want to speak on the throw because, like, as someone who's played a ton of life backup stuff, I certainly think there's a world where in the DR backup packages that already exist in the like kanjis and stuff, she might consider a 1 or 2 of it. Because like it is another -3 damage. It's also on the life symbol, which means like you get access to Loyalty of a Friend and Dramatic Exit, which are really powerful additional DR backup cards. So like that is a pretty solid package right there. You can use in like a deck like Kanji, you can use Hitch to make it like really scary damage. Like I think there is a world where we'll see play. The only reason I'm hesitant to like slam it a couple copies into Hanji is it's non-attuned life, and I prefer the fire symbol. And so like, is it enough to swap over the life symbol? I don't know yet. I will probably be experimenting with it. The best one, I think, the 4 dips are both really good. They also have great block zones, +1 low and +1 high. Shadow Wizard Money Gang is probably the best one, because like also the idea of you can pick up any sort of block. If you have a high block or a low block spell in your discard pile, you can pick up whichever one you need. That feels really good. I think that's probably the one I'm going to experiment with the most.
Yeah, it's kind of. Are you more interested in sort of just very solid fundamentals, just high base damage, universally applicable effects, or are you more interested in sort of higher variants of I can tutor for an attack, and then I still have to pass the check, and I still have to have set up that attack to make it good. But adding a whole attack to your hand versus +/- speed is just kind of
I mean,
domains.
Ingress does add a whole attack to your hand. It just adds specifically a 3 low 7.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Which is
about
as good as most spells that you're going to grab. Not strictly, but like there are decks that will obviously Shadow Sorcery is going to see play. But I think you don't need anything else in your deck for Chivalrous Charge to be good. It just is.
I
did sleep on that part actually.
The other thing with the Shadow Wizard Money Gang card that I really like is it can pick up Harness on Death. And I don't.
Yeah, that's what everyone's gonna do with it for sure.
That is like a kill card. Like that's a crazy kill card. And is there enough backups on the life symbol for like any like to play this package something that's not Hanji? We'll have to see. Or Zeke, we'll have to see. But I could certainly see it in those decks already.
Zeke doesn't do anything to get you backups. He's just playing them.
Well,
there's enough backups.
Well, Zeke makes passing. The other issue with backups is you can't commit them to pass checks, and Zeke solves that problem. That like you get a big passing of checks, or you shift and you get.
Yeah, it's not a question of whether there's enough backups, right? It's just a matter of can backups be an archetype outside of characters with the word backup printed on them?
Is there enough backups that a character that's just generically good on the life symbol, like a Hanji 2, that doesn't do anything with backups, would still play a sizable number of backups? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been around on the Discords, but I've been having a big Purple Peak kick lately. Kind of in the space, starting from what I think just one of the other Justins played to 9th place in Toronto, yeah. And I finally built an Urban deck after months away, and I love that character. But broadly, like the death symbol is shared between these cards in Harness on Death as well. So any death character who's also self-milling, moving cards around can fill up their graveyard with some backups. Give the Order symbol Yillian as an awesome backup who also fills up the graveyard. And then if you're on Death Attune, you get to Duplicitous Recollection to summon the Shadow Money Wizard gang,
Right.
and then use those to summon the Harness on Deaths and turn one attack into many attacks, which are for lethal damage on the Harness on Death in a lot of cases.
I'm just sad because I forgot that Fern doesn't share any symbol with Shadow Sorcery. I was
Fern
excited.
doesn't have life.
No. Fern is Fire, Earth, Chaos, Void.
Fire, Earth, Chaos. She's a 4-symbol character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just you probably don't notice that just because she specifically wants to play fire cards.
I also didn't notice it because I put her out of my mind when she wasn't legal, and it took so long for her to get legal that I
Sure.
didn't look at her after she went up for redemption.
But yeah, she can't play this card, and it makes me sad because I was like, oh man, this is gonna be sick in the 2 characters that are cool that play spells. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool in Jester at least because you can just do the
That's me.
all right. But like Jester gets to double up on her discarding momentum to pick up a spell with this backup, which is cool. But Fern doesn't get it, and no, I'm sad.
Oh, neither of my Ferns have any insane
Shim lines.
shim lines.
I have a shim line on one of my little misters, but
are
not
you
on my Fern.
are you a bread style pro shim line?
No, I just think they're funny.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I embrace what life gives to me. I think that's a.
And sometimes there
general
are
attitude.
some cool shim lines.
Look, Brett's a great guy. I have a lot of fun talking to him. I like to consider him a friend. It drives me insane whenever he goes shim lines make cards more unique. And I'm like, I guess that's definitionally
It is
true.
empirically true, yeah.
But I would rather them not exist.
Like, have you seen an alt art? Oh gosh, what's the big blow up everything card from AOT2?
Colossal Detonation.
Yeah, like an alt art Colossal Detonation with the shim line right down the middle. That looks so cool.
Look, yes.
But I admit that majority of the time the amount of shim lines that are in our game are not that are kind of lame. But
I say all that.
Sometimes you get some cool ones.
All that tells me is they should have intentionally put a shim line in the middle of that card. There is one last thing I want to talk about before we move on from Sungjin. Well, the 2 last things I want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about this action. I do want to get a pet peeve out of my system. I hate that this action does not say shift on it. I do not think it would be particularly broken if it leveled up and then went down when it cleared. And I just do not like the idea that it's a double-sided card that the only way to access its transform side is to do a weird
this is
It's
just
an action now. I'm on the webpage. It's an action now.
Hey, this is just what if we make a future level up character in the future and we want to make sure that this is gated really, really well,
Sure.
right?
Sure. I guess I can accept that, but it just is mildly annoying because it's one of those cards that's going to, I think, just feel a little unintuitive as a result.
Yeah, I mean, well,
I did fix it.
if it had the shift keyword, I guess this is your turn, so I guess maybe never mind that. But
Yeah, it'd be
if
fine.
it was a shift, you might think that it would transform during your rival's turn, for instance.
We have that issue no matter what with shift. People block with shift cards. But I will say my other thing with it on a mechanical level, and this one's not as much pet peeve, I just think it would be a little better. I wish it was either on either player's turn you could use the enhance or specifically on your rival's turn, because we'll kind of talk about it as we talk about Sunju's overall power level. I don't like that he doesn't have access to his defensive ability on the opponent's first attack turn when he goes second. And if this could give him access to the defensive ability, I'd be way more down.
He has 30 life. He's supposed to
Yeah,
to
block.
defend himself.
Your defensive ability is the number in the top right corner of your card.
Have you seen what
Your
Porco does?
Your defensive ability
Yeah,
is
he gets
that
blocked.
you can play that your character dominates long games, so you have to adapt to the fact that you're an E rank hunter at the start. I want to shout out grinding overtime. This whole set is all on classic symbols, and that's different than the old ones. And notably, if you want to play this, if you want to play grinding overtime in Ghidorah for a 0 mid breaker 1 block that also puts a backup in your stage for some reason, if that's valuable to you, you can do that.
I mean,
that's a pretty funny use case. I imagine that's why the backup is so bad.
because I think they carefully segmented all of these onto life and all attunes if they had the exile from hand mechanic.
Where are you guys in terms of Sung Jin Woo's viability? As two things. One, where are you guys on Sung Jin Woo's viability as a character now? Do you think he will show up in a top cut?
I think the Shadow Monarch is dramatically more likely to be competitive than the Assassin was. If it is good enough, I don't know, but these cards are all pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, these cards are going to have 2 years and a few months to
Find
turn
something.
and become something, right?
Sure.
Right.
I don't think I'd be sleeving him up right now,
Right.
but it doesn't, it just takes the next barrier shield on one of his symbols or whatever, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't take too many cards that are just in the right shape to make a 6-hand size that needs to find some defensive tools into something.
Or if they keep giving life backup support that's on the level of like dramatic exit and loyalty to a
Mhm.
friend, stuff like that. Sure.
The ship might be sold. I don't. Well, I guess we'll see how they
We'll
feel
see.
about current backup decks over time. But I'd be surprised if those repeat.
I would be too, but you never know.
Yeah.
Will, where are you on with
And
it?
he can have so much extra damage on his Falling Titans.
That's true. He could. I don't know. Like, I do think he's marginally better than the original, especially like bare minimum. Your level 1 is makes you a 7-hander effectively, and you have to only level up 4 times, which means you don't have to run nearly as many XP cards in your deck. And these new XP cards are at least somewhat better in general than the ones in his deck. So like, even the few that you're going to run are still a little bit better. But I do agree. I don't think I'm going to see a Sung Jin Woo top cut at like Buffalo or Worlds this coming year. I could see maybe sometime in the future before he rotates. But
Well,
Well, these
maybe-
have a release date, actually.
November 14th.
yeah,
Okay.
November.
So they will be legal for
I'll
Buffalo.
say-
All right.
Correct.
Maybe he'll show up in Buffalo because like 12 people are going to be at Buffalo.
I think
But-
we're gonna have 60 to 100.
Really? At
Yeah.
that close to Christmas?
A lot of people that have been like, "Oh my god, it's so close to Christmas," are turning around and being like, "Yeah, I think I can go."
And honestly,
I've
maybe
seen
with,
that for like half a dozen of those, and I assume that's a representative sample of some kind.
you also may have a decent number of players who are like just enough points off of day 1 or just enough points off of day 2 that they will go, hey, I'll throw my hat in the ring and give it a shot.
There's a decent number of people that can just make the drive.
Yeah.
Also that.
Yeah.
I see it being probably at least like Toronto, like where there's like 40 to 50 players bare minimum.
I am being conservative and guessing more Toronto, but if it did go up to like Denver or Albuquerque numbers, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's
Yeah,
gonna
I don't think we're crossing 100, but
Yeah,
Right.
I got 60 to 80 is maybe more likely than 60 to 100, but stuff happens.
Sure.
Right.
Yes,
Uh,
as long as we cut the top 8, I'll be content.
Right.
All right. That means we need to get 129 just to ruin Broberg's dream.
Yeah, ruin my life.
I got one
I'll
more.
try so many donuts if 129 people show up.
One last question before we move on. So like I think obviously we were all playing for deck loadable content, DLC. That was like sets 1 through 3 of MHA. Those were like you got 4 characters and 2 copies of an attack and foundation per character.
Correct.
And they were like $25. This feels like kind of a reinvention of the DLC concept, at least adjacent, like a very
dramatically
set,
better one.
established problem.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you guys prefer this style of product release as like an interim in between challenger decks and sets compared to deck loadable content?
So for what it's worth, I didn't have a problem with DLC to begin with. I did think it was overpriced, and I didn't like that, the DLC was just, here's more for this MHA set during the MHA only era. Like, I like the idea of DLC of like, hey, here's this IP that we don't have the ability to make a set for right now, but here's some cards just to keep the fans of this IP like interested, or to buff certain things or introduce characters that didn't get to shine in the previous sets.
Sure.
I like that mentality, and yeah, I absolutely agree that this is a much better instance of DLC because you get one, I guess technically in this scenario you could get up to 4 characters, granted 3 of them are just reskin slightly worse versions of characters that already exist, but you get cool stuff for liking the IP and you get more cards to buff us that specific character. I think this is perfectly fine. And you get playmats. The playmats are cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think DLCs always felt awkward because it was just like a little tiny pack of cards,
Sure.
and you had to buy 2 of them.
Yeah,
Sure.
And stores had to put them on shelves, and mostly didn't want to.
Right.
And then a lot of them ended up rotting on store shelves, and like, so putting these cards with something, whether it's a deck box or a playmat or something of that ilk, or even some sleeves, I think is a much better approach, where you're getting play sets of the thing, right? And you're getting something with this. It just doesn't. I don't have an express rational reason for this. I just think the vibes are off of like paying, 20 some odd dollars for like a little stack of cards.
Right. They're definitely
as compared
overpriced.
to paying, 30 some odd dollars for a playmat and a stack of cards, or for some
Right.
sleeves and a stack of cards, or a deck box,
Mm-hmm.
especially because are you ever going to use that playmat, Tim?
No.
So you're
But
paying more
like-
money for something you won't use and cards.
But it feels like a
Right.
better deal if it's like if he's getting merchandise for it, because the
Yeah,
merchandise.
yeah.
Right.
It doesn't feel like you're getting taken advantage of as like a committed CCG player of like, hey, we printed 20 cards, paid $1.50 each.
Okay, so I get that, but
Yeah,
it-
actually,
But also,
I
people are going to
remember-
buy this to use the playmat, Justin. It's not just us who are going to get it and throw the playmat away. Like,
I do
Well-
like. Sorry, Brober, go on to your point.
Yeah, so I was going to say that ultimately, like, there is a element of sussing. And ultimately, we're in commerce land, we're buying collectibles, but it feels kind of smelly when we have these kind of direct consumer marketed things. I think the DLC were less exploitative, or were more exploitative than this is. I think it's nice that this is basically a product that doesn't require you to buy 2 instances of it.
right.
That's going to be sort of equally accessible for someone who's a big SJW fan versus someone who thinks Chivalrous Charge or Shadow Money Wizard Gang is going to be a defining card of the metagame, and so I need to get on the ground floor of these cards. And at some level, it's better that it's this direct-to-consumer product of these powerful cards rather than like secret rares and ultra rares and a booster set. But it still feels a little funny, and that kind of the availability of these on the secondary market, I'm sure, is going to be bizarre.
Yeah, I do these are DTC just like the other ones, right? I do dislike that part of it, as like someone who knows Sean O'Brien, but
I will say this. I do like that it's a play set, because I do think like the fact you had to buy 2 DLCs, which was like $50, and you got like extra copies of the characters, which didn't matter, and things like that. That always felt kind of icky. So I like that it's just like you get the play sets no matter what.
Right.
I think, Tim, you brought up something I really like. I wish it was a playmat, a deck box, not a playmat. Because if it was a deck box, then it's like, cool, I build Sung Jin Woo, I can put it in the Sung Jin Woo deck box. That's a thing I'm actually going to use and bring to locals and stuff. Whereas a playmat, I have playmats from the LCSs and regionals that I'm going to always want to use regardless of the deck I'm playing. So like, I think if it was something like a deck box or sleeves, I would feel just a little bit better about the product. I still think it's like a fair deal as a whole. Like, I'm not upset about the product. If it was something I would always use, you'd rather have an awful deck box instead of a playmat of the character. Like, did you see the TMNT deck boxes at Atlanta, Jose? If they made a deck box like the TMNT Atlanta deck boxes, I'm so in.
I will say, apparently, those were a little small from what I've heard. Otherwise, they did look really good, though.
yeah,
in a very remote view, I think of if I'm selling these merchandise, there are a lot of features I might want or not want in a deck box as an individual consumer. Like, I got my deck box at World this year, and I did not like it very much, ultimately, because it didn't have some stuff I've gotten used to in my deck boxes, and I pretty eagerly sold it, ultimately. And I'm kind of jealous when I see other people walking around, it's like, oh, that's pretty dope, but then I remember why I sold it. And the nice thing about playmats is that they are very big. They are very loud statements of your appreciation for the character. They're very appreciable art pieces, and they're all kind of the same. And so if you don't have to worry about having a playmat that doesn't have the right kind of rubber on the bottom or anything, right?
Right.
Sure. And like, I don't mind it. It's just, for me, it's like a product I would theoretically use is a deck box or sleeves. I will never use this playmat. And I get there are people who probably would, people who are Sung Jin Woo fans, and I respect that. But I bet there is a higher percentage of consumers that are buying this for the cards than buying it for the mat, given the size of our game.
Well, I mean, just given that it's a direct to consumer release, it sounds like
Yeah,
if this was on store shelves, people would buy it for the mat
sure.
and then get some cards, and the stores would be making bundles of
Absolutely.
their spare solo leveling challengers they never sold along with this thing or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, they are in stores.
Maybe this one does go to stores.
It does.
This one does. Okay, the
Yeah,
other
it
one
does.
wasn't directed to. Okay,
So
that's good.
stores had a limited amount that they could buy.
Yeah.
But stores could absolutely buy these.
Okay.
Same with the playmats with the like reskin characters.
Oh, really? Okay. So it
I
sounded like
believe-
those were only going on their online
yeah.
shop.
If I get in trouble for saying this, I don't think I should, but retailer wise, our store at least was allowed to get 10 of the SJW bundles and then 3 of each of the character bundles.
Oh,
Sure.
sure. All right, that's good then.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was making me sad that we wouldn't see it on store shelves.
Yeah. If a store had the ability to get it, they could. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will get it, but
All right. So I think that kind of covers everything for Sung Jin Woo. And I know Broberg's been kind of itching for a topic. So Broberg, I'm going to let you kick it off. You know, there's been a lot of talk about where the game's at right now. And there were some thoughts you wanted to share on it. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I had this kind of big idea about adjusting the idea of power creep and kind of just noodling on some of the things that are going on in the metagame. So the first thing was that in the broad sense, I think power creep has a very negative connotation for normal reasons, right? At the extreme, if you have too much power creep, if you have an extreme of power creep that just builds on itself. You know, your cards from last year become invalidated by this year's cards. In 5 years, the game is dead, right? Because you can't keep creeping the power level forever. Eventually, you're not playing anything resembling a game anymore, and the game's gonna die. But I think that there's this idea in kind of game design circles that balance is overrated, and a lot of people tell you, "I want a balanced game," but then you give them a balanced game, and they're disappointed, they're bored, and this is gonna kind of actually kick around. Now, as I say that out loud, I realize like this thing kind of kick around. I think Cam's been kind of pitching that here and there. And one thing I noticed, and actually I realized as we're kind of getting ready for this call, that this kind of clicked in my head when people were talking about the My Hero Academia spotlight thing that Ace Universe is going to be doing, I think next month online. That there are a lot of old cards that are not even appreciably replaced in standard right now, that have rotated out from set 1, set 2, set 3, that are much stronger than what we have today in their particular roles. And this is kind of one way that you can have power creep in your game without having it go out of control forever. Is you kind of have a cycle, you have a wheel sort of, where you'll have new things that come out that are on top of the wheel that are the most powerful version of that kind of around. You'll have the 9 Titans throughout the ages. That's this flashiest double damage thing and this big -4 button in the stage. All kinds of, sweeping daggers, aerial goblin bolt are uniquely good at what they're doing. But at the same time, you kind of ease back somewhere else. You print worse 0 diffs is the kind of a very loud, obvious example. But there's a lot of cases of, Nitro Explosion Ignition. There's nothing shaped remotely like that anymore. Interact with the opponent's character with something like a Razorhead, nothing like that anymore.
Until now. Until Megalomania, right? To some extent.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, the big thing with the Razorhead was I played like
Defense.
Ochako 2,
Right.
and yeah, he raced me. Like, you're -1 hand size, but you don't get a character, and you're a 5-hander, so it's a good trade. It was a very deflating experience to play against sometimes. And so we can have power creep, and I think I've bristled when people say, oh, it's like Reiner's power creep because he has a big number in his life bar, because the game isn't quite so simple. But I think that's kind of true. The numbers are going up a little bit of late, but I think this does not mean that we're entering a terminal death spiral of higher power levels every release. And especially, we do see sets like Critical Role, sets like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that get flack for not power creeping enough, that are too boring, too safe on power levels. The characters aren't playable or whatever. Those ideas get kicked around. I don't know if they're necessarily true.
Yeah, I want to hit on something real quick because I think we're kind of touching on 2 ideas of power level a little bit here.
Sure.
The one you just said is like, you don't really like when people say Reiner is power creep. But it is kind of true. And I want to hit on that one a little more. I think there are 2 kinds of power creep. There are certain kinds of power creep that are linear, raw numbers are going up. if you print the same level of abilities on a character, and for the most part, characters have had the same or better level abilities. We'll talk a little bit about if they're better or not in a minute, but at least have had the same level abilities as previous characters, but they have more HP. That's an objective power crypt. You know, Godzilla with 37 health would be more powerful than Godzilla with 36 health by definition. Barring really extreme edge cases like King Ghidorah with 11 health would actually be worse than King Ghidorah with 10 health because he wouldn't get access to the 10 health abilities. Barring some really weird niche cases, for the most part, there's like
more. I think more health is better than less health is a
yes. As a whole, I think
that
we
does
can
not
say
need
that.
elaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, as a whole, we can say that. On the other hand, there is like effect power creep, which is a lot more muddy because I think you are right that like it changes. You know, you said that like there are MHA 1 cards that have never been replaced. You are right. We have not had a draw card as good as Passing the Torch since Passing the Torch came out. I do not think there is a single one that is as good and repeatable as Passing the Torch. There are a couple that we could argue like horizontally powerful because they're better and they flip. But in terms of commit to draw a card, you've never been Passing the Torch. And so like, yes, our game is better in some ways, but in other ways it is weaker. There has never been a zero diff as good as Release. Besides maybe
what a crack card.
Maybe the other MHA ones like Requesting Assistance or Tight-Lipped maybe come close. But that package of zero diffs, I cannot think of a zero diff afterwards that came close to that good. I might be missing one, but I do, as a whole, agree. So I guess the idea I would have is, first I want to say, what are like styles of gameplay that you think have rotated out of the game that could come back in? That isn't necessarily power creep, but it's just those types of cards don't exist.
I mean, I think that the current design of the game has been, I feel like, almost intentionally sort of exploring the domain of, you know, like maybe like I can't really think of one that's kind of been neglected, honestly. I was gonna say like hardcore hand rip, like, you know, discard your opponent's entire hand.
Sure.
But then there are actually pretty decent tools for
Yeah, you
that,
can actually
you know,
work
in
on
the
that.
context,
Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah, the knot deck was part of what it was doing, right? It was like,
Yeah.
we're gonna challenge your hand size, and some of it's gonna be because I'm making you block, but some of it's because you took that animus shot.
Yeah, like
Good
here's
background.
here's Cynthia in Monster Zero, and like those are not bad tools by historical measures.
Right,
You know,
right.
Cynthia's repeatable even.
Yeah, I mean, is this my cue to complain about Prone to Dry Eyes and cards of that
I'd
brute
love it.
strength and cards of that ilk? I mean, we have Greater Goal. We have Pressured by All for One. I think it gets kind of thin after that. I mean, Genghis Frog as a backup shaped thing, but a lot of, and maybe what people are reacting to when they complain about power creep. I don't think I'm in that camp of complaining about like power creep as a general concept, but they might be reacting to the characters that are giving the most stats on face relative to, you know, prior experiences of just like the amount of stats that a Rodan can do, or that a Peak can do, or that a Godzilla can do.
Right.
You know, but then, you know, the plenty of stuff like, you know, Hawks and Porco and whatnot that aren't expressly doing that are doing pretty well. So
yeah, I do think there's definitely a shift. The area where I feel it's neglected and it's hard to really describe. I think a foundation lineup that is mostly cheap or free stats doesn't exist to the same extent it used to. You know, I don't think you have a Death Eraserhead deck that is like a bunch of value pieces for its main character and what a lot of its attacks are doing, that it's getting most of its stats from like brute strength, tight-lipped, all of those cards.
I think you're describing King Ghidorah though.
King Ghidorah is the closest because his character runs that in an. It's not necessarily that he has a generic package that King Ghidorah can use. He has two cards that on face say, and exactly King Ghidorah, this always does +1 or -1 damage or +1 or -1 speed. Like that is a thing only King Ghidorah can do because of his weird health thing. So you don't necessarily have it as a generic package. You have it as a King Ghidorah package.
I think I think this is actually sort of about kind of where I was going to tangent to next. Kind of the big picture that I had was kind of two link thoughts even. And I guess let me just jump into this then. So I think the other piece of this package is that, well, power creep is okay, but well, what's really going on at the metagame right now? And I think that it's not just that. I think it's not that necessarily that individual cards have been power crap, like greatly increased in power level, but I think some of what's going on in the metagame is an adjustment to a tune, and especially like the Attack on Titan concentration of a tune, where we had 3 sets where a sixth of the set is playable like Godzilla, right? And that's not necessarily always the case. I guess maybe it's especially playable in every Godzilla, not just the Chaos deck, not just the Life deck, but not the Chaos or whatever. They're all Chaos attuned, and then that means across the board, Godzilla has this additional corpus of options. The attunement means that every deck has a much wider pool of playables, and that you have this much wider pool of interactions as well, not just amongst your character and what your character, like sort of your stock archetype does, but then the interactions of all of your attune cards that are interacting across those symbols. And then if you have some, like I've had a lot of fun of like brewing Harness on Death decks and saying, well, how does Harness on Death interact with if I have the Fire attune to get Hitch, if I have the Order attune to get Yelena, if I have, if I'm on Death or Life, I get the Death or Life backups from AOT. Not to mention any of the Infinity symbol cards and whatever. And so, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, finish. I just wanted to say, like, I think you could also flip this on the flip side. Attuned cards can be played in about the same number of deck as non-attuned cards. Like, when you do the math, 1 symbol attuned versus 3 symbol non-attuned, rough. But I think the increased design of infinity cards has meant that when a card is powerful and it's infinity, you see it way more. 9 Titans can be played across a ton of different symbols for really cheap because of the fact that it's infinity and all of the Titan attacks are infinity. So you see that card show up in a lot of different variations in a lot of different decks, way more than I think it would have if it was like, say, Life, Death, Order. Unyielding.
Yeah.
Unyielding is a great example of this. Every deck under the sun can consider Unyielding. If Unyielding was a Death exclusive card, then like it would still be annoying when it comes up, but it would be like, okay, that just means that now Death characters have this as an edge. Instead, it's now, wow, this is a really problematic card that I'm seeing everywhere because any character that remotely gets enough value out of it can choose to run it regardless of the symbols. I think that makes problematic cards feel worse.
Yeah, and actually, I think that was actually the line that got me thinking on this. Is specifically, so you think of 9 Titans, it's an infinity card, but it's also a Titan backup that really plays incredibly well with Rock Throw, Beast Titan's Rock Barrage, and so that's a Life Attune exclusive synergy. And then it sort of has some follow on, like it kind of implies like it pairs very well with Hitch. Just 2 big minus damage buttons that both say, well, hey, play more backups, and then there's so it's kind of Fire and Life like core, and then you can put it in wherever you want. And we haven't seen much of like Death decks playing 9 Titans, I don't think.
I will say I faced at the LCS, and it was actually like a pretty solid deck, although the Hanji deck did win. I faced at the LCS a Reiner 1 deck that used 9 Titans, and like turn 2 Rodon, because the Rodon had like a low block in hand, and he got hit by the 7 high for 7. And then the Reiner played, I think it was Armored Titan Attacks, had a way to reset it to printed speed with Moment of Normalcy. It was 11 damage. He committed 9 times. It was 22 damage. It just one shot the Rodon.
Yeah, and I was doing similar things with Annie. Like I was playing Annie 2, Chaos Death.
Oh, Annie 4-check decks love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the deck I was playing for a while.
And so, yeah. I'm not to say that you can't do it, but it's that it hasn't
shown up
much. People have either brought it and then fallen short, or decided against it for whatever reasons. So just like appeal to scoreboard basically. But where I was going was just that I think that contrasted to the Death Eraserhead decks from the first year of the game, right, which were very kind of stock cards, very non-committal cards. Brute Strength doesn't ask you for much; it just asks you to go in. Tight Lip doesn't ask you for anything. I think a lot of the designs of them, the Attack on Titan era, have been sort of typically affiliated, right? Like kind of they ask you to build your deck in a certain way to get the rewards. And I think a bit of it is influenced by Attune. They don't want to just print staples that'll go in any deck because you can just like put all the staples on your off your Attune symbols, and that's like not very interesting deck building. And so I think that I perceive that there's an intentional design hedge to say let's make cards that are sort of hewing towards archetypes, hewing towards sub archetypes that can still distinguish, two Death Order characters from one another. Where if I have an Irwin who's playing wall counters and I have a Peak, that they have different interests beyond just their mechanical identities, right? That Irwin's going to play some cards, and maybe Peak is, I like we saw I think the first Peaks of the OCE season were actually playing some wall counter support just because they lined up well with the build synergies. And that's just like a cool emerging design phenomenon that
Yeah. And that
is the
could
kind of
be
thing a designer like seeding in their game.
Yeah, that could be Attune related. It could be specific to sets that are imagining like two symbols on characters and 6 symbols in the set. You want to do that more with than if it's, well, we're going to have 12 symbols and 3 symbol characters, then that idea is a little less necessary. Some of it could just be they're printing so many cards, right? And you want to be careful about printing generic cards when you're printing so many of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll refer to the Blazing Storm problem as if that means anything to anybody. But
I'm gonna go look this card up.
It's not really pertinent here. It was a brainworm for me for a while.
Sure, I still gotta look at it.
And it could just be that
Okay.
this batch of designers is more interested in broader themed design, especially since they're getting away from kits in a lot of cases.
So let me kind of ask a different question as we're kind of hitting that 50-minute mark. In the same vein, I think it is impossible to deny that a substantial portion of play groups are not happy with where the game is right now. And I don't just mean that from like the people who complain in David's Discord. Like, yes, those people will have complained about everything under the sun, but I've seen a lot in my locals. I've seen people in my locals very frustrated with where the game is right now. And obviously that's like anecdotal, but
Sure.
With that in mind, if we acknowledge that it seems like the public wants a change, does that change from what we're talking about power creep, does that change come from a ban list or set releases? And what would you guys be thinking a set release might look like to start pushing towards that change?
10% ban list, 90% adjust in future sets.
Yeah. And I think I mean I'll probably say this and just be wrong, but like I feel like we're kind of already in the direction of the latter because like and TMNT does feel, not necessarily factual or not, it does feel weaker overall compared to AOT. Critical Role feels weaker comparatively. There are things about Guilty Gear that feel weaker. Not necessarily a bad thing, especially if that's I've said this before on the cast, if that's what we plan on doing in the future, that's fine. I think a lot of people will just end up liking it, but the downside is that we have to deal with these growing pains as the game kind of shifts its focus on where its power lies, because we're still going to have to deal with these AOT cards. Like, we're going to have the people clamoring to ban AOT the same way we had people clamoring to ban MHA1 before it rotated. That's just how a game with rotation works. Sometimes the power level is not what people want it to be. It's going to suck for a hot minute, but it'll get better.
Am I drawing a blank? Which AOT cards are we complaining about now?
I'm not. I'm specifically not. I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah, I've seen that thrown around. I'm trying to think about specific. Like, I could see if people think that Greater Goal is too good or something, or if they're tired of Peak or whatever.
Unyielding.
That's
like
not
the main
AOT one.
Oh, AOT 1?
Yeah, we're talking about like AOT 1 and 2 specifically. Like, I think the bigger dislike is in the Godzilla stuff, but when everyone complains about it, they say AOT.
Rock Barrage is AOT 1, right? Or is that
it's AOT 2?
Okay. Then it's I mean, Greater Goal is a card that like I think is absolutely insane and busted and just hasn't shown up in a lot of decks because the death symbol is not in like a fantastic place compared to a lot of the other symbols right now.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a little bit of hesitance around unyielding. Like, most Greater Goal decks want to live with more foundations in their stage.
Also, for what it's worth, Greater Goal is also set 2.
Yeah.
Man,
A
I mean,
lot of the like strong cards that people just put towards AOT in general are like AOT too, but I think a lot of those cards are fine.
Yeah, it's not even the Magic designers, it's Jeremy Wright.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's trying to make good competitive cards.
Yeah,
and he is more willing to do that via raw stats than maybe some other members of the design team, trying to make cool, fun, exciting alternate ways to play the game.
Right.
Loyalty is AOT 2 as well, isn't it? Loyalty to a friend.
Loyalty is AOT 1.
Okay, that card I think is toxic.
I played that card in Beast Titan a little bit.
I think that card is insanely toxic.
To be fair, that card sucked at first.
People might have beef with Smiling Titan. I don't know. That's a competitively.
Yeah, I think character-wise, I think that's what a lot of people are complaining about when they're thinking of AOT.
People aren't even playing Ymir anymore.
I know. Look, man, I know.
The answer is we killed a lot of the AOT 1 decks through the ban list already. Because, like, yeah, Reiner, one who actually got killed so early. Same with Mikasa. Got killed very early.
Reiner won a regional this year, dude.
Yes, but okay. First of all, I
killed him dead.
I don't believe this anymore.
He got better.
I don't believe this anymore, and
He's the plot armored Titan, dude. You can't kill him.
I don't want to get canceled, but some people would say OCE is not a real regional. I would not say that anymore.
Yeah. Those people can talk to me and tell me about their scoreboard.
Hell yeah. But yeah, like I think a lot of people's complaints are just with the characters that are still good, and I think that's more Godzilla than AOT. It's just every time that conversation comes up, the people who are the whiners, the complainers, whatever, they're talking about banning AOT in general. Just AOT 1, 2, and 3, not like just AOT 1.
I think people get bad vibes from the 9 Titans, from Filled with Doubt, from Moment of Normalcy, from Unyielding Destruction, from Airship, from I'm sure like 24 non-infinity symbol cards, but those ones come to mind.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of which, those were all AOT 3.
Yeah. I think so long as future sets have some more consistent ideas about, I guess particularly where stats are coming from. Mm-hmm. Do we want them coming from stage pieces? Do we want them on a text? Do we want a lot of characters that are driving a lot of your statistical power, and just figuring out how to make that situation balanced? I think a lot of stuff will sort itself out. But there are some like ban to unban stuff you can do that we talk about every other show, like unyielding sweeping daggers, that kind of stuff.
Honorata Smiling Titan. I'm so in.
Get out.
Bro, why?
Because I want to play Smiling again.
Smiling has Mutant Machine. It's better than Smiling Titan.
There you go.
Okay, but do I get to play all 4 checks with Massive Mutant Machine?
You could.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
Look. Just let me.
You can play it on a 7. You'll never have to commit more than 3. It's great.
Let me just have my girl back, okay? It's not too much to ask.
You can still play as her. No one is stopping you.
No. That is a trap. I have had multiple times. Andrew tried to convince me to play Smiley again. That is a trap, and I will not fall for it.
All right. I mean, I don't have to. I'm not going to make you. I'm just telling you can.
The first enemy to be defeated is yourself. So you have to get out of your own way and find out. You have to find out what you truly want in your heart of hearts, and then you need to have the courage to follow your dream.
If I will say, if I was convinced that a Smiling deck is good enough to top, I might show up to Buffalo for it just for fun.
Look, all I'm saying is that my local might have stopped with Smiling if he had not pivoted to Bishop for some reason at the last second.
Well, okay.
Because John was like, "Oh, I'm going to build Smiling." I'm like, "All right, cool, man. I bet you'll do well with Smiling."
Get a bunch of
and then like a week beforehand,
buff Bishop.
Right, and like a week beforehand, he was like, "You know what? I played Bishop once at locals. This deck's cool. I'm going to play Bishop." And I'm like,
what?
"That's going to be a bad idea, dude. You're not going to do well." And he's like, "Yeah, but that's what my heart tells me." I'm like, "All right, man. As long as you have fun." As long as you have fun. He played 3 rounds and dropped and went to the aquarium. So he did have fun.
True.
Just not the fun that he would have had if he was playing the game.
Sometimes the best fun is not playing the game.
I dropped after 4 rounds and I took a nap. So I'm not gonna say I made a mistake by not going to the aquarium, but the Atlanta aquarium is nice. I wish I'd taken an extra day to be able to go to the aquarium. So I think I don't think so. Yeah, I wanted to like kind of land the big picture.
Yeah.
I think that it got a little bit disjointed. So Your question was, so given where we are with the state of standard, right?
Yes.
What can we do to get out of this? Should it be banned? Should it be erratas? And I want to like zoom out a little bit because I was kind of pitching like power creep is okay, power creep is good actually, and that we have this attune situation that's changed things. The thing I like about talking about the game is that I discover things about it. Right, there's always new ways to think about the game, new ways to frame the game, new ideas to discover in the game, and I hate jumping to conclusions. And so I think that this is part of why I shut down a lot of conversations about like, oh, like XYZ is broke and we need to ban it. It's like, shut up, dude. Like that's a conclusion you've jumped to. I don't care that's like a thought that crossed your mind. Like that's fine that crossed your mind, but I'm not terribly interested in made up ideas of like this is clearly the right answer. We need to ban XYZ card. But it's tough because certainly, the temperature has gotten kind of high in standard. I'm thinking of more metaphors to express this idea that like, yeah, like you can kind of get messed up and that decks kind of get polarized very naturally. Thank you. That is a good pin.
Yeah, I think I was using the temperature metaphor for like aggro decks, and if you block really well, you can raise the amount of temperature that they need to actually kill you, but they might still get hot enough, and maybe they're still getting hot enough too often or whatever right now.
Well, I think even separately than that, right? Like Hanji can legitimately have draws that like shut Godzilla out,
Yes.
right? Godzilla gets a mediocre draw, and Hanji puts -20 on him, and he's like, well, I didn't try to determine to dance this turn, so I can't do anything right now.
Right.
And that's power creep happening, right? That's the acceleration. That's this linear engine that is going in a straight line and overpowering a deck that is supposed to be pretty good at damage output. And part of the story is that, a lot of Godzilla decks aren't playing cards like enormous decks to have a little bit more damage output on top of their damage output. And so they're saying, well, if you have -6 on board, I have to run into it with 2 attacks. And that's
to bring it back, power creep in the certain arena, right? It's not global power creep. It's in this instance power creep in the arena of reusable damage reduction tools.
Yeah,
in particular, right?
And that the standard format has an incredible diversity of decks, and I think the defining characteristic of standard right now is that you have more mismatches than usual. You have more decks that are very invested in blocking and very invested in not getting blocked, or one deck that says interact with me by blocking very well or die. Right, Time Dial Hanji, I think, gets blown out by Rodan, but most of the field isn't Rodan, so it's actually a strategically sound idea to go hard in that line of 7 high for dead is a great thing to be doing against most of the field because most of the field isn't Rodan. Rodan kind of chump checks that. He's not getting killed by that very easily. He's very resilient to that, and like he has barrier shields if you're trying to, you have to beat the crap out of Rodan to ever beat him with that.
Yeah,
Rodan's weak to other things that are not so attacked by that, but those other things aren't nearly as effective against the Devil Jins and the Godzillas when you just need to race fire them. And that's the polarization. And what kind of dries up when you have this polarized metagame, when you have all these mismatches, is that people don't have as much fun, and people feel like they have less agency in the game. People feel like they're just 2 ships passing in the night, goldfishing each other, and those are not great. Those are bad outcomes. So how do we get out of those bad outcomes? There are no easy answers, and like it's not even like the characteristic of like this higher power creep, this like higher water lines, higher temperature, is just that there isn't one problem you can point to. There are cards that have bad play patterns, but like you can't put the genie back in the bottle of the cards just being stronger than they used to be, or like the decks being. I think the last part of the thesis that I was going to kind of pitch was my thesis is that the decks are stronger as a result of attune sort of giving you a wider base to draw from, of more outliers, more whatevers. Devil Jin has 8 cards that are 1 difficulty foundations that draw a camo counter off the top, on top of everything else going on in that Devil Jin deck. And that's partially just a weird side effect from Attune that this didn't used to be an emergent property of the game, and now it is.
At least the particular balance of attuned symbols that they've released, right? I think there's like things you can say about attuned in a mathematically even world, and things you can say about attuned in the everything's kind of, we've printed a lot more of this symbol than that one, and they're sort of 2 different situations.
Yeah, and ultimately, to some extent, this is like the copium pitch is, well, these are growing pains. The designers are figuring out some of this out as they're going along. They made some I think, remarkably good calls and good balance decisions, and they made some others that aren't shaking out as ideally as we would hope.
Sure.
And I don't like jumping to conclusions, so I don't have an answer on how you get out of this. But that's my view of the metagame, and I think that this has been kind of percolating in the back of my head. And thanks for the opportunity to dump it out on everyone.
Of course. Yeah, no. Weeks like this are a great week for someone to get on their soapbox and talk through like what has been sitting on them.
Actually, sorry. Yeah, no. Chet said the correct answer is actually everyone just needs to start playing Peak Universes.
That's true. True.
You know,
I thought you were about to say the correct answer was reprint Bang, and I was gonna scream at you.
Oh hell no! I hate that card.
I hate that card too. That card sucks.
I could suspend that from retro. Chat, should I suspend Bang? Subscribe if yes.
Hold on.
let me sell my copies first.
I say, does this count as Rochester taking bribes if they sub for you to ban Bang?
Brother, are you paying attention to America right now? Of course it's not a bribe.
True. Wait, my bad. How many subs was that?
Wait, what just happened?
We
got
got-
a ban that said 8 of 10.
Oh, okay. We got one sub at least.
Thank you,
Thank you for the sub. Chat was just very delayed in that. We got like the announcement that the sub happened, and then it told us that someone subbed.
So yeah,
I am not the retro czar. I have no promises. I'm no explicit personal authority here. I can just.
I'm
what's
trying to
funny what I
imagine
think.
Sean saying no,
Yes.
and I can't see it happening.
No,
so
it's
thank
cool.
you,
Which-
thank you, Colby. I don't see who our other one is. Thank you, Colby, for the sub. It said I got 2 subs, but it's only showing me 1. So if another one pops up, I will thank them. But if not, thank you, Colby, for the sub. We do really appreciate it.
Was it Jose? No.
It might have been Jose.
Maybe.
No,
It
he
says
followed
two-
us.
It says 2-month subscriber. I don't know.
I'm so
I feel like there's a way to
Anyway.
figure it out, but whatever.
Hey, this is why we're professional streamer men. On that lovely note, thank you guys so much. I think we're good to start wrapping it up here. And if anyone have any final thoughts they want to share,
No, just I guess I might as well tag on here. I'm gonna be away from the show for 3 to 6 weeks while I do 14
Sure.
stuff.
Sure.
Because my main group raids on weekends. There's a 4-person challenge that came out. I don't know how long it's going to take us to beat it, but me and 3 of my raid mates are going to run Tuesdays, Thursdays for a bit, except when somebody arbitrarily cancels on Thursday, which will probably happen at some point. And I'll just be here by surprise last minute. But
so yeah, let's go and start kind of marking off where people can find us. So Tim, you might be gone from here, but where can people find you?
yeah, so I have YouTube, Satonis, CETONIS. I'm getting to like a month without a video because I keep changing my mind about what my next video is going to be. Because I don't have like a regular video schedule of like I just always do this. I'm probably not gonna do a video on ban list related things. I think I'm just gonna go back to some like budget talk stuff and make an X post about my ban list things. I am TK Satonis on X/Twitter. I have a Blue Sky account, but I gave up on using it because there's just it just doesn't have people on it, unfortunately. But
That's true, yeah.
Broberg, where can they find you?
I have socials, but mostly I'm just on Discord, and I never post on the content creator platform. That's just the truth of what's going on in my life right now.
I'd like to say I'm better off. I do have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Double Mulligan. Now that I have my 200 points for Worlds, so I don't have to worry about competitive stuff.
And you have wired internet?
No, I don't have wired internet yet, but we got a Wi-Fi extender, so I have better Wi-Fi now. So like it's been fine. It's been okay. We haven't dropped frames yet. But you can find me on Double Mulligan. I have like 4 different prongs in the fire for things I am currently working on. One of them might exist at some point in the near future. Just pay attention to like the Discords, and you'll see like I post in all of the Discords whenever I'm going live with something. Or if I'm posting a video, you'll see it there. And Will.
As usual, keeping track of the YouTube channel for our VODs. youtube.com/4checkscast. I uploaded the video from this past week at like midnight on Monday or Tuesday because I completely forgot about it. But I did do it on one of the days that I said I was going to, so we're good. I will be downloading the VOD for this, and it'll be up on Monday or Tuesday, as usual.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, let's go ahead and send someone to raid. I think
Is Tam
Tam's
still-
still running right now. Yeah.
Yeah, throw him at Tam.
so. We're just gonna throw him at Tam. Yeah. See, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, we will see you with the 3 Checks cast next week, and have a good day. Hit the raid
Right.
button. Hit the stop streaming button.